guys, it's Nurse Jet, Nursing the Truth, and I'm on my third video today and going to be the last for today. I am going to be talking to you guys about Pliny the Younger. These are his letters that he wrote to different people during his lifetime. And as we know, he knows, and he was in on, and he was there with these PISO conspiracies in Domitian's time. So he was born, it says that he was born in late 61 or 62. Okay, so his uncle, Pliny the Elder, died in the Mount Vesuvius eruption in 79. And so going on down in the introduction of the book, he says that he was well taught in rhetoric, and he was schooled by teachers and the writers of Quintilian, whom Vespasian had appointed to him. In Rome, he came in closer contact with his mother's brother, his uncle, the elder Pliny, like I said, that died in Vesuvius. Sorry, I'm looking down and reading another book because I don't have all this memorized per se like I did on the other books. So he inherited his uncle's full estate, and his official title was Gaius Plinius Lucii Filius Caecilius Secundus. And he began his career as a lawyer at the age of 18, and mentions different courts and where he had different cases that he presented. He married his first wife, and he then was in the military tribunals. Then he met the exiled philosophers. Now, in Nero and Domitian's time, the philosophers, the writers, were exiled from Italy, Rome. These were your Stoic oppositions. You see, the PISOs, like Stoicism, if that's how you say it, Stoic things. So he says that he met the exiled philosophers Euphrates and Artemidorus, and that he was one of the quaestors attached to the emperor's staff who conveyed his messages to the Senate. And this was in 88 or 89. In 91, he was tribune of the people and felt it his duty to suspend his practice at the bar. Emperor Domitian allowed him to proceed to the proprietorship in 93 without waiting for the statutory year's interval. So, what's that old saying? You keep your enemies closer. See, Pliny, in actuality, was Josephus's foster brother, or if you want to say stepbrother, but it's going to be foster brother. And he knew how to write really well. And so, even though Pliny was in the familiars, he was kind of back there a little bit. And Domitian didn't want to exile him either. He wanted to keep him close and keep him under his little wing, kind of watch him a little bit. It says here that, but when the retaliated by charging Pliny's colleague Seneca with high treason, Seneca was one of the leaders of the Stoic opposition to the emperors, and his conviction and execution marked the beginning of the reign of terror for which Domitian is remembered and which is so vividly recalled in Tacitus's Agricola. The leaders of the opposition were put to death, and many of their supporters were exiled, but though Pliny afterwards described himself as surrounded by falling thunderbolts, he emerged unscathed. Did you hear that? So the Stoic opposition, the people, the philosophers of that time, so what were they writing? What were they putting together that was so damning to the Roman Empire? Think about it. Nero and Domitian exiling these people for conspiracies, doing things. What were they up to? You can't trust them. And Pliny says he was surrounded by these thunderbolts and he emerged unscathed. Indeed, he was given a 3-year treasury appointment as one of the officials in charge of the military treasury. Domitian was assassinated in September of 96. And Pliny took the opportunity to vindicate the Stoic Helvidius Priscus by charging his prosecutor Publius Certus. But the spirit of Nerva's reign was against raking up the misdeeds of his predecessor, and Pliny had to be content with the fact through Certus was one of the officials of the treasury of Saturn. So see, this is where, Josephus is still under the cuff. He's writing. You see, because under Titus and Vespasian, he was secret. Co-emperor, co-ruler, co-counsel is Antonius Pius or Antonius Arius, which we'll do another video on that. And I can show you, friends. Show you! Open your eyes, my little truth seekers, Gnostics alike. And you will be amazed when your eyes are opened. Now, Pliny also had to wait until 103 before receiving a priesthood, the usual decoration for the merit in his day. He was duly elected augur to fill the vacancy left by the death of Frontinius. Trajan's answer to his earlier position for a priesthood is not preserved. Pliny's official titles include that of priest of the deified Emperor Titus. What? But wait a minute. Let's read this again. Pliny's official titles include that of priest of the deified Emperor Titus, for someone to be deified, they're divine, they're a god. But where is this Orthodox Christianity that we're all told that's going on, running around rampant? Over Jesus the Christ? But Pliny in 103 respectively, which gets no respect in my video, is a priest to the deified Titus. Where is the deified Jesus, Yeshua HaMashiach? Think about it, friends. Finally came his appointment to a special commission as the emperor's representative in the province of Bithynia and Pontus. What? Pontus? Doesn't that sound like Pontius Pilate? You see, when Josephus was exiled, he went to his familiar area, and it was in Bithynia and Pontus. Hope you're liking this so far, friends. You've got to get the book. You will be amazed. We know that Domitian chose Pliny to fill the post in the military treasury, and it may be wished his readers to forget that he owed anything to an emperor whom he presents as a monster of tyranny. He was friendly with a great many people who suffered death or exiled for their political views. And though he says more than once that he took risk on their behalf. Politics and religion go hand in hand, one of the same people in that time, and it is still rolling downhill. Gods and guns, people, and the Bible to tote. Praise God under the Roman Empire, and slaves obey your masters. And God has put us here to govern you, and you shall do as we say. No, we don't. Have a nice day. So he was involved and he knew these people and took risks. Tacitus quotes his father-in-law's career as an example to prove that even under bad emperors, there can be great men. Yes, the great men as Nero and Claudius and Domitian. Tacitus was a quaestor under Vespasian in 78. And also 77, he married the daughter of Julius Agricola. And in 88, Tacitus worked under Domitian. Now do you see? It also says here that I'm writing little notes in my book as I go. Yeah, the Stoic philosopher were friends of Tacitus and Pliny, and they were executed in 93 by Domitian. Good, off of their frickin' heads as far as I'm concerned. It says that the problems confronting Pliny were mainly three: political disorder, municipal bankruptcy arising out of unregulated public spending, and there was a risk of political disturbance in the province, as evident from Trajan's reluctance to permit people to form societies, even for such purposes as a fire brigade or mutual benefit, and no less from Pliny's doubts concerning the Christians. Though they appear to do no more than support a degenerate sort of cult carried to extravagant lengths, and had ceased to hold meetings since Trajan's ban on political societies, Pliny felt that there was a risk of fanaticism spreading from town and rural districts. Trajan's attitude is calm and impartial. The thing is you, just like today, you have to have a license to sell cigarettes in stores. You have to have a license to sell beer and liquor. You have to have a license to sell toilet paper on the side of the street. But what he's saying is, every cult had to be licensed or whatever. So, anywho, let's get to some more juicy gossip. Hang in there, friends. It's getting better. Now, another thing here, it says, now we're getting to juicy gossips. Because, see, I know all of Josephus's pen names, and so when you start extracting, you get excited. Pliny is always appreciative of older men like Spurina, whose life could be inviolable in his late 70s, he says, and Arius Antonius, who retained all his literary gifts. Did you hear that? Pliny obtained and retained his literary gifts. PISO's father, here we go. It says, it was perhaps, though their common background, that Pliny came to know several members of what is often called the Stoic opposition, its leader, Thracia Paetus. Paetus means father. Paetor, Paetus, the father. This opposition to the imperial regime was not only true Stoic in doctrine, for it opposed rule by a king in any form, whereas the Stoics accepted the principle of monarchy provided it was put into practice by a philosopher king. Thracia Paetus' long campaign against Nero and execution in 66. Bye-bye, Piso. Piso down the drain with your Drano. More than 20 years previously, Piso's father's father, the grandfather, had joined in a conspiracy against Claudius. Now, Pliny quotes Thracia with admiration more than once and pays eloquent tribute to the devoted life and his heroic death. And Thracia's daughter, Fania, married Priscus, and he was too executed for seditious opposition by Vespasian. Other members of the party were banished and did not return until after Domitian's death. Oh boy, isn't that nice? Pliny was very widely known, and he read Greek and Roman authors at first sight. Seems wholly typical of his generation. He studied the authors and the quotes and personal tastes. He referred to Plato and Aristotle. With the theorist of the Stoic opposition was purely personal. His verbal quotations are from the Iliad and the Aeneid. And I have the Aeneid book. I need to see if there's anything in the Bible with the Aeneid sentences or anything. I'm sure there is. Domitian was followed by what Gibbon called, he was a historian, the period in the history of the world during which the condition of the human race was most happy and prosperous. That's the real deal, people. It is useless to look to him for any outspoken criticism of the conventions of his day. He accepts without question the employment of slaves and gladiators, the deification on death of the emperors, and the political necessity of suppressing a fanatical Christian minority. Minority, small, very little. So let's give you an example of Pliny writing to Josephus as a character in his letters. Are you ready, friends? We are going to find it because I just come across it before I started. Here we go. Enjoy, my truth seekers. Pliny writes to Arrius Antonius and says, I have been trying to make a successful Latin translation of some of your Greek epigrams. Can I give you any better proof of my admiration? A change for the worse? I know the main reason being the inadequacy of my own talent, and then the limitations, or rather what Lucretius calls the poverty of our native tongue. But if these translations into Latin and by me retain for you any of their charm, can you imagine the delight I take in the originals written in Greek and by you? Hello, truth seekers. It's a Friday. Get excited. Tell your friends and family about me and this channel. The New Testament was in Greek. Let's get to another good one. There's so many friends, I can't hardly stand it. He was also writing to a person called Novus Maximus. And it says, I gave you my views on each section of your book as I finished reading it. Now you shall have my general opinion of the work as a whole. It is a noble achievement, powerful and penetrating. Its language is dignified, varied, and well chosen. The style pure and rich in metaphor. The comprehensive scale has a breadth which will win you recognition. You are swept on by the force of genius as well as of indignation, and those have reinforced each other. Genius has added dignity and grandeur to your indignation, and this in its turn has given your genius power and fury. I looked up what Novia was. The gens Novia was a minor plebeian family at Rome. Members of this gens first appeared during the final century of the Republic, but the first of the Novi to obtain the consulship was Decimus Novus Priscus in 78. So I go there and I look, And these are like writers. Quintus Novus, a playwright in the time of Sulla. Lucius Novus, in 58. Domitius Junius Novius Priscus, consul in 78. He is probably the same Novius Priscus who was among Seneca's friends, banished by Nero in AD 66, and his wife was Ortoria Flacilla. So, this is all making sense, friends. These philosophers, these writers, they're getting expelled because they're coming up with something, they're writing some shit, and they're like, no, we don't want this. Let's see something else. I'm hoping you are enjoying this, because I am. Oh, yeah, let's see here. He also wrote to a person called Vestercius Spurnia. Yeah, this is a Spurnia here. It says, I know your interest in the liberal arts and your pleasure when any of our young men of good family do anything worthy of their ancestry. So I am hastening to give you my views. Now, why the hell is Pliny giving his views on something he's writing? Today, I was among the audience to which Calpurnius Piso read his poem on the legends of the stars, a scholarly treatment of a splendid theme, written in a flowing, eloquent couplets, whose delicate flexibility could rise to grandeur and is required. I pray the gods to give me more news like this to send you, for I believe in this generation, and I'm anxious for it not to prove batten and outworn. Still less do I want our noble families to have no distinction in their homes other than family portraits, though these, I think, must now be silently congratulating and encouraging these two young men, and doing them both the honor of acknowledging them as descendants. Wow. So we're writing, they are their ancestors, and they, Pliny and his crew and his children, are the descendants of the Testament. Now, one more thing, friends, and I will not bore you any longer, but you must get Pliny's letters. And usually I dog ear my things. This is to Atrius, Atrius. I have received the book you sent, for which many thanks. I am very busy just now, so I haven't read it yet in spite of my impatience, but I hold literature in general, and your writings in particular, in such high regard that I should feel it sacrilege to hold them unless I could give my undivided attention. I very much approve of the trouble you have over revising your work, but there should be a limit to this. First, because too much application blurs the outline instead of improving the details, and then because it distracts us from more recent subjects and prevents us from starting on new work, and also from finishing off the old. So friends, have a nice weekend. And thank you, Pliny. Thank you, Suetonius. And thank you, Tacitus, because we are the code breakers. And thank you for all the people that has broken the system down, and we are coming out of the system. Thank you, Abelard Rouchelin. Thank you, Roman PISO, I don't know if it is the real PISO family man that's coming out of the woodwork or if it's just a pen name and he doesn't want to tell you his real name. And also thank you for other people in the past that has taken the sweet time, and I have read these books and will continue to expose. Thank you, God Thaw, from truth, wisdom, righteousness, and thank you for Goddess Ma'at for the scales of justice. And friends, this will come down, and I promise it's just a matter of universal time that this thing will no longer be holding us. Until next time, Hotep and Ashe, and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Goodbye, friends.